Hello, welcome to the training to be a successful remote worker. This training assumes you have the operational competence or the expertise to do your job well. The assumption is also that the company or the employee already knows all the benefits of working remotely. Hence, I'm not going to waste your time going through the benefits of telecommuting. The focus of this training then is understanding your obligation if you work from home. Tom V is not my name. It's an acronym I want you to get used to. The training will be divided into modules. At the end of each module, there will be one or two questions just to test your level of engagement. So let's begin. Let's quickly go through the agenda. We have 7 short and quick modules to cover. They are telecommuting, tools for success, remote office, your day, self-management, communication, and seeking for help. After each module, we take 1 or 2 questions to test your engagement level. From this point forward, I want you to embrace this new understanding of what telecommuting is. It is a test of my value. Test of my value. Tom V. Test of my value. The test of my value may either be negative or positive. The value is what is to the right of your screen. That is the value you bring to your company. Let me break this down for you. You are employed to add value to your organization. That value may be to produce specific products or provide services. If you're hired to make tangible products like packaged goods, the value you bring to your organization is the quantity and quality of the products you make. And it may be made per day or per month or per whatever the unit is. Others may not make tangible products. Perhaps you process transactions or analyze data or perform similar tasks for your organization. Your finished product is the value you bring to your organization. When you work on site, your presence and your face time is enough for you to feel like you're adding value. But when you're working remotely, this is the real test of your value. This is why you must remember the acronym Tom V. Test of my value. Remember, you must show your worth to the organization and the company. If the company is not seeing that worth, the decision is easier for them. This training will focus on how to emphasize your value to your organization when you're working remotely. If you have your own business and you have employees that are not adding enough value to your business, you know what you will do as a business owner. We're going to explore how you can maintain value while working remotely. So let's test your engagement level. The question is, what is telecommuting? For each correct word, you score 10 points. Please keep track of your points. So take a few seconds to write down the correct response. What is telecommuting? Here's the correct answer. Test of my value. The maximum point is 40 for this module. So write it down. This completes module 1, telecommuting. Let's move on to the next one. The physical tools you need for a positive Tom V is just a handful. Your laptop, your phone or fax or printer, those 2 may be optional, and Wi-Fi. Without a reliable Wi-Fi, your success diminishes significantly. You definitely need to invest in a good Wi-Fi service. This may be pricey, but it's absolutely worth the investment. Telecommuting comes with a lot of financial benefits. You save on wear and tear on your vehicle, your transportation costs, and so on. But there are also some costs you need to be aware of. Your utility usage may increase because depending on where you live, you may need to put on the heater or your air conditioner. This leads to more cost on your side. Another hidden expense is food. Some remote workers confess that they tend to eat a lot more than usual. Actually, having your kitchen next to you may be a big problem if you're not disciplined. So basically, you need to watch out for all the incremental costs with telecommuting. But let me tell you a secret. Talk to your CPA. Those incremental costs may be tax deductible. So take note of them. Anyway, back to having a Wi-Fi. When working remotely, a real cost for you and one that is worth the investment is to have a reliable Wi-Fi. Please factor this in. Not having it may be actually a deal breaker for you, and it will lead to a negative TOMV. Okay, let's test your engagement. Name some tools you need to be successful. You can score up to 30 points here. 10 points for each correct response. Okay, let's check your knowledge. I hope you named some or all of the above. Write down your points for Module 2, and this completes the module on tools for success. Let's move on to the next module. To get your home office ready, there are a few items you must set up. First, you need a dedicated space to do your work. If you have an extra room, this is always the best because you can close your door and truly go to work. However, not everyone can spare an extra room as an office. This should not prevent you from working from home. A section of your room, or living room, kitchen table, or any area in your home can be used as a remote office. The key here is the word dedicated. You want to make sure this is your assigned cubicle or workspace to perform your work on a daily basis. If you work on the bed today and tomorrow you move to the kitchen, you do not have a dedicated space. Your goal is to consistently use the assigned space from day to day. Moving to the next item, guidelines for family. If you have other members of the family living in the same residence, or you have a roommate, you want to ensure they are aware of the dedicated space. It serves no use if you are the only one that considers it a dedicated space. As a matter of fact, unless everyone at home knows your dedicated space, your chance of success actually will diminish. Once they know your space, make sure they know your work hours so they will not disturb you. Keep in mind, the family members include your pets. If your furry friends are like mine, you definitely want them to know this is not playtime. Oftentimes, employers may give an assurance that they understand you have your children and your pets around. While this may be acceptable during light discussion, if you're holding an important meeting or a call, they will prefer an uninterrupted meeting time. So please take note of that. Thirdly, you need to maintain structure. It is important. This may include an organized area where everything you need is a tap away. You don't want to run into another room or your car to look for things. Everything should be no more than a stretch of your hand away. If you have a good structure, you will feel in control. Finally, you must eliminate distractions. Television is the number one distraction for remote workers. We often deceive ourselves and say we can multitask. I tell you, watching the news and doing serious work are not great companions. Especially knowing the news is always sensationalized. Your television should be off during your work hours. If you don't do it while on site, try not to do it while off site. Take a minute to reflect on what we covered in this module. I'm going to check your engagements in a few seconds. We covered 4 requirements for your remote office. What are they? For each point you answer correctly, you will score 10 points, up to a maximum of 40. So write down your response. Okay, here are the correct answers. I hope you got some of them right, if not all. So total your score for this module. And let's move on to the next. Let's talk about your typical or normal day. For on-site workers, you rarely think about your day. You just show up and hope you'll have a good day. For remote workers, actually for a successful remote worker, you need to plan for the day. For a remote worker, the first thing I want you to think about is your commuting time if you were to go on-site. Undoubtedly, most remote workers save on commuting time. I'm sure you will agree with me. This is what I want you to do with that time. Because your day is preceded by your commuting time, I want you to use that time for exercise. Yes, exercise. First, there is no excuse that you don't have the time. You've gained some time now, and trust me, your body will appreciate the 15 to 30 minutes of the brisk physical activity. Remember, you're going to be in front of your screen for at least 8 hours. You've lost that 10 to 15 minutes to go from one meeting to the other. No 5 minutes walk to the bathroom 2 or 3 times a day. No 10 minutes to get your coffee. Even for lunch, no time to walk out for your lunch with your colleagues. So remember, the prerequisite to a good day is physical activity. Now let's talk about the requisites. First is dressing for success. Telecommuters often dress down when compared to their normal business attire if working on site. This is what I would tell you. Follow your employer's protocol, particularly if you have a conference call. Avoid rolling off the bed and start working. Working in your PJ does not set you up for success. Remember, your goal is a positive Tom V. Rolling off the bed into your office does not set you up for success. Secondly, you need to plan your time accordingly. Many remote workers often assume they have the flexibility to start and end their workday anytime. But successful telecommuters start and end their day promptly and at the same time, if possible, especially for exempt. Why do you think you have a start and end time at work? Because your employer or manager knows that the time box is the most valuable and productive for the tasks you perform. If your workday on site is 8 a.m., then 8 a.m. it must be when working remotely. Logging off before the end of your shift is also unethical. For non-exempt, you want to maintain your normal shift unless you have discussed your shift changes with your manager. Thirdly, let's discuss your schedule. Your work schedule is extremely critical. This is your task list or deliverables for the day. You must know what you need to complete on a daily basis. It may be 100 invoices per day or 80 payment transactions. Some may be based on the number of calls that they answer per day, or it may be a percentage of tasks that must be completed to stay on track. Whatever it is, you must plan for it accordingly. By midday, you should gauge how you're doing. If you're halfway through your tasks, then you are on track. But if you're less than 50%, you will need to buckle up to complete your daily tasks. At the end of every day, I want you to compare your accomplishments to your task list or deliverables. Don't close for the day without listing your accomplishments. It serves several purposes. First, after a week or even a month, you can clearly articulate the value you've brought to the organization. Secondly, you can compare it to your deliverables or task list to see if you're on track or leaning towards a positive or negative Tom V. So remember, your schedule highlights what needs to be done and how you're tracking to it. Location. I'm sure you'll be wondering, Why this matters. First, your employer always assumes you're working from your primary residence. Even though you're a remote worker, your manager will never ever assume you're working from a different location other than your home. For this reason, if you're traveling and will be working from a different location, make sure your employer is aware of this. Many organizations have a hybrid structure where employees may work on site and off site. Or even if you're scheduled to work 100% remotely, your employer may request your presence on site without prior notice. As such, if you're hundreds of miles away, that may pose some difficulties getting to work at a short notice. Therefore, be transparent with your employer about your location. You want to make sure the expectations are clear from the onset. And if there are changes in your circumstances, for example, you're moving to a different city, don't assume your work is transferable. Always check, especially if your location is not within a commuting distance. Another point I want to make about your location. If you're taking a vacation, don't decide to make it a normal work day just because you're working remotely. For sure, you will not enjoy your vacation because you have to work. Secondly, you will not be productive at work because you're supposed to be on vacation. Furthermore, imagine if your manager calls you or leaves a message on your voicemail that you need to be in the office by a certain time, the same day or the following day. Guess what? You're in Hawaii. How on earth are you going to get back to LA in time to show up at the office? It's definitely not worth it. If you're on vacation, enjoy your vacation. And if you're working, don't go on vacation. Be present and be productive. Similarly, if you're not feeling well, don't push yourself. Take the time off to recover. If you're not feeling well, it will impact your productivity and TOMV. The last point I want to make about location. You cannot be working while at the mall or the grocery store or running errands. I don't see how your reasoning will fly with your manager. Oftentimes, remote workers may want to do their grocery or run errands during the lunchtime. The time is always flying when you're rushing, so plan your time accordingly. Finally, take frequent breaks throughout the day. Non-exempt employees are normally entitled to 1 or 2 breaks when working on site. If you're working remotely, I would suggest you take 2 or 3 minutes break every hour throughout the day. When you add it up, make sure it doesn't exceed your normal break time, whether it's 15 or 30 minutes. Exempt employees are also encouraged to stand up and walk around for a few minutes every hour. This will keep the blood circulating, and I always tell myself, it keeps the creative juice flowing. I want you to review some of the discussion points we covered in this module, and then we'll test your engagement. What are some of the points we discussed for your day? In this section, you have up to 50 points for this module, 10 for every correct answer. So take a few seconds to write this down. Okay, let's check your engagement. Okay, how many did you get right? So write down your total. Let's move on to the next module. At the heart of TOMV is self-management. Let's jump right into it. The first point is freedom. Working remotely gives you a lot of freedom. This freedom you tend not to have when you're working on site. The freedom might be due to one of 2 reasons: slacking or not having enough work. If you're slacking, it's a matter of time before your employer gets to know. If you need to process 100 invoices, and for the past few weeks, you've been averaging 70 invoices per day, as I said, it's a matter of time. Slacking is just like procrastination, which is a self-sabotaging behavior. It will eventually ruin your credibility and negate your TOMV. It is to your benefit to work efficiently to meet all your goals and daily deliverables. If your freedom is due to minimal work, which means you have extra bandwidth to continue to maintain a positive TOMV, you must use your extra time wisely. Everyone has a downtime on the job. But if you consistently finish your daily duties within a shorter period as compared to your normal work hours, then you need to proactively take some action. Let me give you an example of having extra bandwidth. Your daily deliverable is to complete 100 transactions per 8-hour day. By the 6th hour, you're already done. Not just today, but every day. You definitely have extra bandwidth. That means you have additional 25% bandwidth. Proactively, you have a few options. 1, you may speak with your colleagues to see if you can help them. 2, you may ask your manager about taking on more responsibility or be part of a project or even learn a new skill. 3, you can review some of your tasks or projects and see how you can improve the process. You may develop processing manuals, updating existing manuals, explore better processes. Oftentimes, taking such actions will lead to a promotion or some form of recognition. I always tell employees to share their knowledge. There is absolutely no reason to hoard your knowledge. So sharing it makes you indispensable. So the more knowledge you have, the more indispensable you become. And the more you share them, the more indispensable you become. Furthermore, be aware that some employers have a way of tracking the productivity of their workers using technology. So I would just say, use your time wisely, especially when you have free time. Second point in self-management is accountability. For a remote worker, you and only you are accountable for the accuracy of your tasks. You need to be thorough with your duties. I will recommend that you review them several times to ensure accuracy. Speed may be valuable in some organizations, but if your work is full of errors, it leads to rework, inefficiencies, and most definitely a negative Tom V. Third, motivation. If you are not self-motivated, remote working may be challenging for you. But I have good news for you. Everyone can improve their self-motivation skills. During my doctoral studies, I was working full-time, raising 3 children, and to top it off, married to a pastor, which makes me the first lady responsible for many activities in our congregation. If I don't learn to motivate myself, I would have failed woefully in all the areas. But I passed. That's why I'm here today. Let me share a secret, some secret with you to self-motivation. First thing, do not, I repeat, do not align yourself with negative coworkers or negative people. Even if you're not negative, you will be seen as one. Negative alliance will lead you to expend negative energy, which will deplete your motivation for productivity and cause a negative Tom V. Let me repeat myself, and I want you to write this down. Negative alliance will lead you to expend negative energy. Negative energy will deplete your motivation for productivity, which will lead to a negative Tom V. Simply put, if I surround myself with negative people, first, I will be drained. Secondly, I will have no time to do productive work. And finally, no one will want me as part of their team. So you must avoid negative people. Secondly, if you're to avoid negative colleagues, what type of colleagues should you partner with? Exactly, positive. They will encourage you. You will learn from them. They will motivate you to conquer the world, which can only lead to positive Tom V. Thirdly, always set daily goals. We discussed this in the last module. After setting your daily goals, follow through on them and measure your daily achievements. It keeps you motivated when you see your accomplishments. Fourthly, seek out opportunities to learn more. If your attitude is, that is not my job, Self-motivation will be challenging for you. Always seek for learning opportunities, improving your knowledge. Learn from colleagues, supervisors, and even your managers. Finally, the last point in self-management is about supervision. For non-exempt or hourly employees especially, when working on site, you can rely on real-time access to your manager or supervisor. But when you work remotely, real-time supervision is very minimal. This essentially means you must have a really good grasp of your work. Accessing your supervisor or manager is not 2 offices away, so you need to acquire more knowledge and plan accordingly. You will be expected to learn more, know more, and be able to make good decisions. I would recommend that you take note of any questions or challenges you encounter during your daily work and discuss them with your manager during your one-on-one or team meeting. Take a minute to think through what we discussed in this module and how you plan to use them. Let's check your engagement level. We discussed 4 points about self-management. Can you name all 4? You can get up to 40 points here, 10 points for each correct response. How did you do? Write down your total points for self-management, and let's move on to the next module. Communication increases your level of engagement with your team and organization. Without it, you will feel isolated, disengaged, lost, and possibly lack the knowledge of your organization's direction. The first point I want you to know is communication keeps you in the know and even in the loop. Informally, you can stay engaged with your team by having virtual lunches. Once a week, you may just schedule a video lunch and have your lunch together while having small talks. If your lunch is 30 minutes, I will recommend a 20-minute video lunch. This will give you extra 10 minutes for a quick physical activity before you go back to your office. Formally, though, I will say schedule one-on-one with your supervisor or manager. Use this time to discuss your challenges, your training needs, and very importantly, any progress you're making in your project. You may also use the opportunity to understand what is going on in the department or the organization at large. This is your me time, so make good use of it. If your supervisor does not schedule a one-on-one with you, feel free to request one. Secondly, let's discuss the different methods of communication. This will depend on what you want to communicate and how urgent or important it is. If you need a quick or short response, a text or instant messaging tool is always appropriate. When you use IM or text, it generally does not interrupt your regular workflow. Now, if your communication requires an in-depth discussion or a thorough reply, an email, a phone call, or a conference call may be warranted. When using a conference call, be available to use a video call. It has many advantages. One of the most important ones is that you can see the facial expression and body language of the speaker. We normally take this for granted, but both are part of communication, and it helps you to better comprehend the discussion. Since you're already dressed for success, we covered this in the topic your day, you have nothing to worry about if you need to jump on a video call. If you are conducting the video or audio conference call, always start with a roll call. This ensures the expected participants are on the call. Secondly, announce the purpose of the call. If someone mistakenly crashes your call, they will have the opportunity to exit. Thirdly, be focused on your discussion. Oftentimes, facilitators engage in prolonged small talks as a prelude to the discussion. I would suggest you keep it to the absolute minimum, especially if it's time for the meeting to start. Finally, engage all the key stakeholders in your discussion. If you're unable to pull them in during the call, most definitely at the end. You may go around each participant and ask if they have any further comments before rounding up the discussion. If you have a large group though, you may streamline it to each department. I have 2 additional points I want you to note when it comes to video conference. First, Make sure your background is exactly how you want it, the background of your video. Avoid any moving objects, as this will distract the participant. Instead of concentrating on your discussion, they may be focusing on the moving object behind you. The second point is this. If you need to take a bio break during a conference call, formally excuse yourself. Never take your phone or laptop to the bathroom or any other room besides your office space. You might have muted the audio or stopped the video, but remember, it only takes a slight movement of your finger for the camera to be back on or unmute the audio. And all your activities will be in full view of the participants, if not even the World Wide Web. Everything goes viral on the web, both good and horrible. So please be careful. Finally, how do we communicate effectively? Effective communication just requires a few skills. First, be clear about your subject. Make sure you have a good understanding of the topic so that you can answer any clarifying questions. If you don't have a full understanding, bring a subject matter expert to help you with any questions. Make sure between the two of you, you can answer any questions. And if unsure, always inform the attendees that you will get back to them. Secondly, state your need from the beginning of the discussion. For example, at the start of the meeting, say, the purpose of this meeting is to decide on the go-live date for the quantum project. With that, everyone is grounded on what you are hoping to get from the meeting. Finally, paraphrase key decisions at the end of the call or meeting. This will give you the opportunity to confirm your understanding, and if inaccurate, someone will correct you. This is the end of Module 6. So let's test your engagement. Can you identify the 3 points we discussed for communication? You can earn up to 30 points here. Let's check your knowledge. Those are the 3 points. Record your total points for Module 6. Let's go to the final module. It behooves you to prepare for seeking help. When you work on site, you don't need to know what to do when you need help. You can rely on your supervisor, your colleagues, or other resources that are readily available. But to be a successful remote worker with a positive TOMV, you must prepare for this. First thing, you need to know the signs that you need help. The first sign, when your work or project is piling up and they are becoming too many for you to handle, you need help. Secondly, when your work quality is declining, even by your own standard, you absolutely need help. Thirdly, when your work is not getting done, period, you need help. Or if you feel at a loss, you have no knowledge of how to tackle your current project or assignment, that's a sign that you need help. Finally, when you have technology failure, if you're like me, you definitely need help. Those are just a handful. I'm sure you can come up with many others. Now that you have the signs, what are the mitigations? The key mitigation is to know who to contact, when to contact them, and how to contact them. The who can be the name of a person or department. It must be written in a safe place where you can easily retrieve it. The when is really about the opening hours or the available hours of that individual. Some may be around the clock, while others may have a specific hours. This information must also be written down. The how is the method of reaching your helper. It may be by email, a phone call, message, some kind of message center, or texting. Just write them down. If you're like me, I don't bother to memorize things anymore. I just write them down. I would suggest you do the same. Save all the emergency contacts to make your work easier. The question is not if you will need them. It's a matter of when. This is the final module. We're going to be checking your engagement, so I'll give you a few seconds for that. Okay, you can get up to 30 points for this last module, 10 points for each correct answer. We discussed 3 mitigation points when seeking help. What are they? Okay, let's see. This was slightly tricky. Even if you missed it, now you will never forget. You definitely deserve a round of applause for completing this module. I would like to add up your points for module 1 to 7, so please do that very quickly. I want to congratulate you on completing this training course. I hope you've learned 1 or 2 things that can make you a successful remote worker with a positive Tom V. So the maximum points you can score is 250. So make sure your addition is less than 250. So let's see how you did. If you score 200 plus points, you are the Tom V champion. You have the knowledge to consistently attain a positive Tom V. If your score is between 150 to 199, you are the Tom V expert. You have the knowledge to attain a positive Tom V. If your score is 149 or less, you are the Tom V promoter. You have some of the knowledge required to attain a positive Tom V. I have no doubt you are all Tom V champion material. Your goal is to maintain a positive Tom V. Make sure you review the critical points as discussed. I have no doubt your employer will affirm the test of your value very shortly. Thanks for taking the class. Happy telecommuting. Bye-bye.